Hi, I'm Jazz Obrecht, and welcome to my Talking Guitar podcast featuring the late, great Stevie Ray Vaughan. I'm always happy to talk about Stevie. Like his hero Jimi Hendrix, Vaughan was part bluesman, part rock and roller, and Stevie, bless his heart, was always quick to credit the musicians he admired and who influenced him. These range from lesser-known musicians such as Larry Davis, who wrote the song Texas Flood, to movers and shakers like Chuck Berry, Albert King, and Buddy Guy. But no influence loomed larger than Jimi Hendrix, as heard in Stevie's words and in his covers of songs like Voodoo Child, Little Wing, and Third Stone from the Sun. While working at Guitar Player magazine in 1989, I was asked to write a cover story on Jimi Hendrix's song Red House. This is it right here. To flesh out the article, I reached out to Jimi's bass players Noel Redding and Billy Cox, as well as to Joe Satriani and Stevie Ray Vaughan. At the time, Stevie was in Los Angeles recording his In Step album. On a Thursday afternoon, he took a break during his sessions to talk about how he first heard Jimi, how he used to imitate him, and why Jimi's music still matters, words that still hold true today. And naturally, the subject of Stevie's In-Step session came up as well. Our phone conversation took place on February 9th, 1989. I hope you enjoy it.
Charles told you that this is about Jimi Hendrix, right? We're going to have a Soundpage recording of an unreleased live Red House.
Yeah.
So we were hoping we could get you to focus on Jimi as blues musician.
All right.
Let me start by asking you when you were first aware of Jimi.
The first time I ever heard him knowingly.
Yeah.
Was I say that because the first time I ever heard his name, was when my brother brought a record of his home. Mid-60s. I guess it was around 67, 68. And Jimi had found it in a trash bin.
No kidding.
Behind it, he was playing a gig at the show in Dallas called Something Else, and he found this record, and he recognized it because he'd seen a little blurb in a magazine.
Wow.
Just a short paragraph about Jimi Hendrix, and he knew he was supposed to be something really happening, and he just happened to see this record that had gotten thrown out with a bunch of other stuff because it wasn't, it didn't fit in with the show perfectly or something.
No, too much.
And he brought it home and put it on the record player. And we just about, what can you do? What can you do but say, yeah? He knocked my socks off, And I'm not sure exactly the year.
Which
song it was? I just remember it was kind of a blur because around the same time, my brother Jimi, he had this knack for figuring out who was really happening and why.
Uh-huh.
And he would bring home these records. It seemed as if, to me anyway, that Jimi would all of a sudden he would bring home stuff and it would be months before you would hear it anywhere else. And he would bring home so much of it that it was all like, and he would get into a certain style of music, and he would bring a lot of that stuff home about the same time. It seemed as if for some reason he could just come up with a style, and all of a sudden he had all the ifs, ands, and buts around it. All of the different things, like different people who were in the same school, or that went to school together,
Yeah, right.
Instead of a different schools. He would bring home all these things at the same time. And so a lot of the different influences that were on Jimi Hendrix, I heard those things at the same time.
Oh, I see. So you were listening to Albert King and hearing the relationship.
Albert King and Lottie Mack and Albert Collins and Muddy, all this stuff. Jimi would bring home all that stuff at the same time.
Right.
It seemed You know, it seemed as if it was like within a month or two. Can you hang on 1 second?
Yeah. We were talking about the first time you heard Jimmy. What'd you think?
God, he knocked my socks off.
Now, did you ever actually sit down and learn to play from a record of his?
Sure.
Do you remember any cuts
Man.
that were milestones in your development, or that had a...
Hey, man, I remember getting my little stereo. It was one of those, like an airline with the satellite speakers.
Yes.
They called them. They were really just little cardboard boxes.
Yeah, right. I had one too.
A long wire. You know, and I would set that up, mic that up with I had a Shure PA in my room. This is in my bedroom. And I'd go for gigs when we were playing gigs. Some of my first gigs, I'd go and rent like forcip reverbs, and I'd have all this set up in my room. And of course, the parents were at work, you know.
Yeah.
And I would go in there and floorboard it, you know, and dress up as cool as I could.
No kidding.
and try to learn his stuff, you know. And it all went together, you know.
Oh, how funny.
And I would try to learn his stuff, and I'd do the same thing. I did the same thing with a lot of B.B. King records, a lot of well, the ones that come to mind are really, like, you know, not necessarily caught out, but I think back and it's like, you know, I must have really been setting myself up. Somebody walked in the room, they probably would have gone, "What are you doing?" Because I wouldn't stop at one place. I'd go for every bit of it I could find, you know.
You go for all the tricks?
You know, and I would do that with. I remember doing it a lot with Axis Bold as Love, and even though I didn't have the phasing deals, you know, and I didn't have I'm sure I didn't have a lot of the sounds, but some of them I could find, you know.
Were you playing a Strat?
Well, at different times, different things. Jimmy had a Strat, and a lot of times I'd use a Telecaster, but I had a little bit different pickups. I'd rebuilt the guitar myself. There was some love in it, you know. And I would go as far as I could to get as close as I could.
Thinking about Jimmy's actual blues playing, can you observe any unusual techniques he had or characteristic things when he was playing a blues number? For instance,
some people don't see it. Some people really do see it, and it seems to be a real more than a lot of other people, more than most other people that are. See, I don't know whether to call Hendrix a blues player along with a lot of the originals. He did go and play with a lot of those people, and he did do a lot of it during that heyday before he got famous.
Yeah, the early '60s.
You know, and a lot of that stuff, it's like he was on the tail end of something.
The whole R&B movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of it wasn't even the tail end. A lot of it was the peak of it, doing that stuff as it was going on, you know.
Back when he was playing in Nashville in the early '60s on.
Yeah. And in his music, I hear not just the newer stuff that people said was you know, or everybody seems to think was a lot different, and a lot of it is. But there's just as much to my ears. There's just as much of the old style warmth.
The blues style.
Yeah, I mean.
Could you cite a couple of cuts where you hear it?
Well, you brought up Red House. Okay, I hear it in that. I hear it in just the way he approaches things. Even though he was not ashamed at all of doing things different, I still hear the roots of the old style. I mean, not just roots, but the whole attitude. You know, the whole attitude of it.
Yeah, he's not that far removed from Muddy Waters sometimes.
I mean, to me, he's like a Bo Diddley of a different generation.
Huh. Why do you say that?
Well,
Why do you pick Bo?
If you were a kid and you heard Bo Diddley for the first time, back when all that was going on, wouldn't you think that was the wildest thing you ever heard?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. You know, I'm not saying that Jimi Hendrix was a Bo Diddley, but in that sense, there's not that much difference. Or Muddy Waters, or Chuck Berry, you know, it was that different. He just happened to have those influences as well.
Do you think that Jimmy's reverse tension on his strings could have affected the way his bend sounded and things like that?
I don't understand what you mean.
Because he had a guitar that was flipped over, his E strings would bend differently. His high E would have a shorter scale than the low E, instead of vice versa.
Yeah, I have guitars the necks are set up that way.
Do you notice a difference?
There is a difference. However, to me, the bigger difference is the shape of the neck. Because the neck is shaped. I've got a left-handed neck on an old Strat that I have. So
Right.
it gave me a left-handed neck. Okay, and the main thing I noticed about it is the neck feels different because it's shaped backwards.
I wouldn't think that would even matter.
I didn't know about it until
Yeah.
it went on there.
Yeah, that's
But
strange.
the neck feels different.
No kidding.
And the tension of the strings, it does work well that way. I have one thing that I'll notice that's a lot different is where the wang bar is, if it's on top or on bottom. Whether I hold it with the same grip as if it was in the other place or not, it still feels different to me at the top. It seems more approachable or something.
What can you observe about Jimmy using a whammy during blues?
I think he did it cool. I think if somebody else had thought about it first, they would have done it too.
Do you think he was one of the first?
No. I say that because there's a record that I think Hendrix must have heard this guy and gone, my God, I need to check this out.
Who's that?
It sounds like something Hendrix would do, except it was recorded in '58.
No kidding.
It's have you heard Red Lightning? It's called Blues in D Natural. It's a compilation album, and the number is 005.
What company?
Red Lightning.
Oh, what's
English import.
the name of the album?
Blues in D Natural.
And what's on there that Jimmy might have heard?
It's called Boot Hill, and I Believed in a Woman. It's by Sly Williams, and if you listen, go get you a copy and listen to it, and you'll go, shit. It sounds like. I mean, I've never heard anybody other than Hendrix get this intensity
No kidding.
and play as wild as this guy. And he uses a wang bar, and he uses it real radical.
Have you
in
heard?
places?
Do you know anything about the guy, where he was from?
From what I've been told, it's Syl Johnson a long time ago.
No kidding.
Now I don't know if it is or not, but that's what I've been told
Wow.
by someone who's real checked out about their information, you know. And the guy, what it says under it is something to the effect of Sly Williams, guitar and vocals, and then it says something like bass, drums, piano, and horn, unknown, California ? 5859.
No kidding. That's a great tip, Stevie.
And it's unbelievable. It's the guy plays just, it's like this guy's got his teeth are sticking out of the record. It's unbelievable, and it's a lot of this, and I wonder, ever since I've ever heard it, every time I hear it, it just seems impossible that Hendrix didn't hear this guy.
That's very
And
interesting.
some people seem to think that it might be him.
No kidding. I haven't heard.
Playing guitar, I mean.
Yeah, I haven't heard too much of that artist before either.
I haven't either. That's the only record I ever heard by this guy.
Huh. Can you make any observations about what made Jimmy's blues playing distinctive from other guys?
I think a lot of it's his touch and his confidence. You know, his touch. I mean, his touch was not just playing wise, but the way he looked at his perspective.
His perspective?
You know, his perspective on everything seemed to be reaching up. You know, for more, not just more recognition, but more giving.
That's interesting.
I may be wrong about that, but that's what I get out of it. And he did that with his touch on his guitar as well. It was the same kind of thing, and with his sounds, and with his old attitude. You know.
Do you know what when he would play blues, what pickup settings he would tend to go for?
Well, I have my own ideas about that, but I tend to not necessarily get that right. You know.
What's your idea on it?
The way I play, I have to. I don't know. Sometimes I tend to play harder than I need to. Therefore, I don't get as much out of it.
Like your song "Texas Flood" on the first album, to me sounds tonally there's a similarity to Jimmy's.
Well, I'm trying to get as close to a natural old style sound as possible, and I think a lot of his tones were that way. He was just reaching for the best tone he could find, and actually, I kind of think a lot of his tones were just that's the way he heard them, and he didn't have to worry about it, which is something that I do a lot. Sit there, you know.
You worry?
Yeah, I'm a worry wart.
Really?
Sure.
Wow, that doesn't come across at all on stage.
Well,
you know,
there's not a whole lot of time to get stuck in it, you know.
Well,
I go ahead and I know that, you know, either I can turn up or I can turn down.
Yeah, right.
So you know, if it's not working right, I usually stomp my foot and turn it up.
I think Jimmy felt the same way sometimes.
You know, a lot of times I find myself getting really, you know, I have a real hard time with amps, and I'm having a hard time right now with them. They keep dying.
Are you using older ones?
A combination. I mean, I brought with me to do this record that we're doing now. I brought 32 amps with me.
No.
Yeah.
How can you possibly need 32 amps?
Well, they keep dying like flies.
Really?
And I brought them just, you know, for different configurations. Different configurations, or see which one sounds the best in the studio, because we haven't been in the studio for a long time. And many times an amp will sound good in a hall. You put it in the studio, and when you close mic something, its little quirks stick out a lot more.
That's true. You hear all the buzzing and rattle.
Yeah, that you wouldn't necessarily hear in a concert situation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But so far, I've ended up having to have everything I brought rebuilt.
Oh, that's terrible.
And either rebuilt or just put it back in the case. And it's real frustrating.
Yeah, it sure is.
However, we've got, you know, sometimes an amp, when it's dying, it sounds better than it has in a long time.
Yeah, it's tough, though, when you can never get that.
Breath, you know, it really wants to live. You know?
Yeah. As long as you don't depend on that sound, I guess you're all right.
Yeah. I think the quality of amps used to be, for guitar and for warm sounds, the quality of the parts themselves used to be better. Therefore, they worked better. You know,
yeah.
Even though like some of the old effects, they don't work properly. That's when they sound so good.
You never like found one amp that had everything you were looking for, huh?
I bought these Dumble amps. Bought the first one because I was really amazed. After it broke down the first time, it's never sounded the same.
Oh, that's a shame.
And I've bought several of them, and they keep every one of them sounds different. It's built different. I keep wanting the same one that I bought in the first place. You know?
Yeah, right. Charles was really anxious that I keep this interview to 15 minutes and no longer.
Well, it's on a dinner break right now. We're doing okay.
Jimi Hendrix is more popular than he ever was during his own career almost. He's selling more records. He's getting a lot of coverage in the press for some reason. His videos are on TV a lot. What do you think the cause of that is?
Well, he's not putting out more things.
I'm sorry?
It's a good question. Why I may think so, I think a lot of people need what he had to offer.
Could you get into that a little bit?
Well, I think a lot of people really need what he had to offer musically, and there was a lot of honesty in it. There was a lot of drugs and things. People are looking back because they missed something that's here. A lot of people tend to look somewhere else for something that they want to fix them. You know, his music though, his music is wonderful. It's full of emotion. It's full of fire. It's full of, at different points, different things. It's full of light and heavy things. You know, feelings. By light feelings, I mean uplifting feelings. Heavy meaning heavy. You know what heavy means. It can mean anything from one day to the next, really. But I think I don't know. I think a lot of people miss what his music was doing for them. A lot of new people are coming around to going, "What's this?" There, in very few instances, has anybody surpassed what he did.
That's for damn sure.
And it should be popular. It's a damn shame that he's dead and gone. And now is when people are listening. But at the same time, you know, I'm glad they're listening.
Yeah, it's too bad he had to go so soon.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Stevie. This covers what we're looking for.
Yeah. I hope I didn't ramble on in the wrong directions.
No, not at all.
A partial transcription of the interview you just heard was published as part of the May 1989 Guitar Player cover story. A complete transcription appears in my book, Talking Guitar. Before signing off, I want to express my appreciation to the Southern Folklife Collection, the Andrew Mellon Foundation, and my podcast producer, Nick Hunt. I'd also like to encourage you to become one of the 1 in 10,000 viewers who makes a donation to help us continue producing Talking Guitar podcasts such as the one you've just heard. Your support means the world to us, and everything we get goes into new podcasts. This podcast is copyright 2024 by Jazz Obrecht, all rights reserved. Thanks for listening.